I'm writing this before breakfast, which is the one thing Mama said never to do. And I'm writing it to you because there is nobody left in this house who can hear a dream after breakfast and tell you what it meant. My name is Sam Whitfield. I grew up above Piney Fork, in the hollow where the creek bends, and my mother could read dreams. That is not a boast, and it is not a joke. It was just a thing she could do. Like some people can whistle or fix a lawnmower. You told her a dream, and she told you what it was for. And she was right often enough that the family stopped calling it luck and started calling it Mama. There were rules. That is the part people don't understand about it. It wasn't a party trick you could pull out any hour of the day. Rule 1. You didn't tell a dream before breakfast. And if you did, it didn't count. It was spoiled, like a photograph spoils if you open the camera. You waited until the dishes were done. You waited until 10 if you could stand it. Rule 2. Some dreams weren't dreams at all. If you came to Mama with a nightmare and she asked, "Were you sleeping with your hand on your chest?" that was the end of it. Hand over your heart, pressure on your chest. Dreams come looking for a place to land. She made me sleep with my arms out like a scarecrow until I was 12. Rule 3. She never asked you what you dreamed. A person who reads signs doesn't go knocking. If you wanted it rounded, you brought it to her. If you forgot it, it was never yours to begin with. And the rounding, that was the whole art of it. You brought her a dream and she rounded it. A bad dream. She rounded it until the sharp edge pointed somewhere you could walk toward instead of away from. Funeral in your dream. Money's coming. Mud. That is coin. Water rising. Water's just water. The question is whose land it is on. She'd sit at the kitchen table with her coffee going cold and draw a circle in the air with one finger. And she'd say, "A dream is a circle. You can stand inside it or outside it. All rounding means is you decide where to stand." The first time I saw it work, I was too small to remember it myself, so I got it the way you get scripture, told at the table until it was mine, 30 years ago. My daddy dreamed that my granddaddy was sitting in the doorway of this house with water up to his knees. He told it at lunch, which was against the rules, but he was spooked. Mama didn't scold him. She put her fork down and said, "Will, you get up the ridge before the sun's gone. The water's at the graves." There was no water at the graves. The graves were on the hill above the creek, up where the water couldn't reach, the way old folks did it. That was the whole point of the plot. Granddaddy was buried facing the water he grew up on, with the ridge behind him, and nobody had ever worried about it. Then Roy Pemberton bought the creek below us, built himself a house and a sawmill, dammed the fork, and turned the old swimming hole into a lake he could stock with base. He was the county commissioner's boy, and he did what he wanted. The lake came up, and it kept coming up. My daddy and my uncle talked to him 4 times. Pemberton said the water wouldn't reach the plot. He said the grade was wrong. He said they were worrying over nothing. But Mama had read the dream, and when my daddy got up the ridge that afternoon, the water was at the foot of Granddaddy's headstone. It had already seeped under. The ground was dark halfway up the mound, the way ground goes dark when it has drunk its fill. My daddy stood there and looked at it and understood that his father had come to him in the night to say, "The water's at my feet, son. Do something." He went back down and told Pemberton about the dream. That was the strange part. The part that always made me believe Mama was onto something real. A dream was the only thing that man listened to. He could say no to a lawyer and no to a county order, but he couldn't say no to a dead man's dream. He raised the bank and put in a stone wall. And a week later, my daddy dreamed Granddaddy again, sitting in the same doorway, but the water was gone and the sun was coming in over his shoulders, and he was comfortable. My daddy woke up and cried a little, and didn't tell anyone why until Mama asked him at dinner, because the rules were the rules. The second time I saw it work, I was old enough to watch it fail. Mama had an aunt, Ruby barely older than Mama, raised in the next holler over, married into ours. Ruby came by the house most weeks, and she had a mouth on her the way other people have a limp. You noticed it first and everything else second. She came to us one spring with a dream. Her mouth was full of sores, blisters, burning, and she couldn't touch them. And when she woke up, her mouth was fine. She laughed about it. Mama didn't laugh. Mama said, "Ruby, you talk sharp, and sharp things cut the talker eventually. This week, watch your mouth." Ruby laughed harder. "That is the thing about you, Ruth," she said. "You walk on eggshells your whole life and call it manners. I say what I think. If I have to watch my mouth, I might as well not have one. You know the end of it, because it is the kind of end that gets told." 3 days later, Ruby was over in her home holler for a funeral dinner, and she told a woman that her children didn't take care of her, and she said it loud in front of everybody, and the woman hit her in the mouth, right in the mouth, and Ruby, who never lost a fight and never took a step back in her life, didn't say a word. She took it. That was the part everybody whispered about. Because here is what you have to understand about Ruby. Her mother picked out a husband for her when she was 16, and Ruby refused. Not the man, the choosing. She wanted to choose for herself. And her mother, a proud woman, took it as an insult to her judgment and her word and her face in the community. And she drank the poison the way a woman drinks when she is decided. Ruby married the man her mother picked anyway, right after the funeral, and he was good to her, and she knew it, and the knowing is what did the damage, because it meant her mother had been right and her mother was dead, and Ruby couldn't take it back. So she made herself into the loudest, sharpest, most unapologetic woman in 2 hollers, to prove to everyone, and to herself, that she had chosen her life, and it had cost her nothing. And the dream had said, "Watch your mouth," and she hadn't. And Mama didn't say, "I told you so." Mama said, "You didn't round that one, Ruby. You just let it be a dream." And Ruby said, "There is no such thing as a circle, Ruth. There is just a line, and you're on one side of it or the other." She didn't come back to the house for a long time after that. The dream that belongs to me, the one I can't give away, I had when I was 9 or 10. I dreamed a man was following me. He was wet, dripping, like he'd climbed out of the lake, and his face was in shadow. And I knew, the way you know things in a dream, that he'd been following me for a long time and I hadn't noticed. I woke up screaming. Mama was already there, sitting on the edge of my bed, because that is another thing about her. She woke up when I dreamed. She always knew. "You were dreaming," she said. "Tell me." But it was before breakfast. The rules. I tried to hold it, and she said, "This one you can tell. This one doesn't keep." So I told her about the wet man following me, and she sat very still, and then she said, "That is your granddaddy." I said granddaddy was dead, she said. He drowned himself. I'd never heard that. Nobody had ever said it, my granddaddy. The one in the doorway of the stories, the one who'd come to my daddy in the water dream, had walked into the creek when my daddy was 9 years old, because the pain had gotten to be more than he could carry. Not anger, not spite. Pain, and Mama said, "He won't hurt you. He'll keep you. Your daddy was his youngest, and you're your daddy's first. If he was alive, you'd be the one he spoiled." She said it so plain, so certain that the wet man in my dream stopped being frightening. He was just my granddaddy carrying the lake with him, watching over me the only way he could. After that, every time we went up the ridge to the graves, Decoration Day, Christmas, the days that mattered, I could feel it. A pair of eyes on the back of my neck, warm, patient, like a hand held out to help you up a steep place. I told myself it was the stories. I told myself it was Mama. I never once told myself it wasn't real. 2 years ago, Mama died. We buried her on the ridge, beside Granddaddy, facing the water, the way she wanted. And last month, Pemberton's son, he is on the water board now, put in for a permit to raise the lake another 4 feet. Fishing season. The boat ramp. The water will reach the foot of the plot this spring, and this time, there is no stone wall on earth the county will pay for. Daddy called me at 6 in the morning last week, which he never does, and he said, "Sam, I dreamed your granddaddy again. The water's up to his knees in the doorway." And he waited, the way you wait for the person who reads dreams to tell you what it means. And then he remembered, like you remember a thing that is gone, and he said, I forgot. She is not here. I drove up the ridge that afternoon. The water was at the foot of Mama's headstone. The ground was dark halfway up the mound, and I didn't need to be told what that meant. I stood there and looked at it, and understood that my grandfather had come to my father again, and that there was no one left to read it, and that I was the one standing in the doorway now. I went to the water board. I told them about the dream. The man laughed. Pemberton's son in a polo shirt with the county logo. And he said, That worked on my old man 30 years ago, Sam. This is engineering now, not superstition. And I stood there with the dream in my pocket, like a key to a door that had been changed. That night I dreamed the wet man again, 30 years since the last time. He wasn't following me this time. He was standing at the foot of the ridge, in the water up to his knees, and he was pointing at the plot, at the 2 graves, at the new one. And I understood, the way you understand things in a dream, that it wasn't a warning about the water at all. It was an invitation. He was waiting for me to bring somebody up there to read it, and there was nobody, and the dream knew it. And I woke up with my mouth open, like I'd been about to call out. But I didn't know whose name I was calling. I'm writing this in Mama's kitchen before breakfast, which is the one thing she told me never to do. The coffee's going cold. Outside, the creek's up from the rain, and I can hear it the way you hear a thing you've decided not to look at yet. The rules were the rules. You didn't tell a dream before breakfast, because a told dream is a used dream, and a used dream can't help you. But there is nobody here who can hear a dream after breakfast and round it, and I've been holding this one for 3 days now. And it is heavy. I know the circle. She drew it 1,000 times. I just don't know anymore. Which side of it I'm standing on. If you read this on the air, don't use our names. The holler's small, and if you know anybody who reads dreams, tell them to come see me before the water comes up. I'll make them breakfast.